In this video, I'll be explaining Benton's efficient commuter system, better known as Waterline. Waterline currently comprises 11 routes across 20 stations, from the suburbs of Greenslade and Morganstown to the shores of Newry and Connolly, as well as the airport and Stepford. The train services on this operator are relatively frequent, ensuring you won't have to wait 50 years for your train. Well, unless you live in Rosedale Village. The trains on Waterline are a mix of old and new, from Class 730 Venture trains to the Pacers still driving Newry Harbour to Morganstown after all these years. The variety is relatively decent. The trains don't offer any first class, however, unless it's a Pacer, the seats are relatively comfortable and there is enough for everyone, even during rush hour. You'll rarely have to stand on these trains, and even if you do, the standing experience is still comfortable. Again, that's if you're not going on the Pacer. If you are going on the Pacer, I wish you luck, as if you are on one, you'll get knocked off your feet at every turn, and not even sitting will help. To be honest, I'd rather wait for another train than go on the Pacer. This operator also features the Class 379 Electrostars, which, while not as bad as the 387, still have ironing boards, so watch out. The Class 319 and 313, which are aging but still relatively reliable, commonly found on the Stepford line, and the Class 195, which is one of the most reliable DMUs in the country, with a pleasant seating experience, toilets, and relatively mild engine noise. There's also the 171, which is basically the 170's weird cousin. It's more reliable than the 195, however the engine noise can get a bit disturbing sometimes, and the units tend to be a little bit dirtier. Construction. The construction of Waterline differs between old and new. The majority of Waterline is grade separated except for the area near Ashton Park, which features 2 level crossings. The recently completed junction at Benton Bridge has done wonders for increasing frequency on the Greenslade line. As for the architecture, most of the stations are just a set of platforms. It's not meant to look eye-catching, it's meant to be efficient. The true standout in this category, aside from the big interchanges of Benton and Morganstown, is the Stepford line. Starting off with Airport West, which is buried underground but also has an open feel to it, the line continues down to James Street, which is buried deep below street level. The 2 sets of escalators take it down to this efficient tunnel-bore monster of a station. Although the trains can get loud in the tunnels, its clean cylindrical design makes up for it. Getting out of the station places you in the business district of James Street, filled with skyscrapers, and the next station at Farley is only a short walk away. This station was built for the University of Benton, and it features a unique design as well. The railway is buried in a trench, and the station is at street level, with a set of stairs down to the open platforms, kind of similar to Leighton City. Trains from Newry Harbour also turn around at this station. The next stop is Rosedale Village, which is more of a regular station like the other Waterline stops, cheap and efficient with a small station building. Finally, the line ends at Stepford, which looks like it's been ripped out of the early 20th century, yet it still features modern infrastructure with a bus stop and 4 terminating platforms, the most on the Waterline network aside from the major interchange stations. I previously set aside Benton and Morganstown, but we'll have a quick look at them now. Morganstown is a medium-sized, recently renovated town station that provides interchange with Metro, Connect, Airlink and Express services. The Morganstown shuttle bridge has recently been renovated and is no longer in imminent danger of collapsing. The station itself is relatively nice, with 5 platforms and a relatively spacious platform layout. However, the true masterpiece is Benton. With a whopping 13 platforms, Benton features interchanges with Metro, Connect and Express services. It's the most frequently served station on Waterline, with every route having a stop there. The 3 Waterline platforms are effectively set aside from the rest of the station, with one being a terminating platform and the other 2 dedicated for services to and from Newry. These platforms are occasionally also utilised by Stepford Express, however they're mostly used by Waterline. About once a day, typically during the night when Waterline's frequency is lowered, you can also spot 2 freight trains, one to and one from Newry Harbour. These trains are moved during the night, as their length could disrupt the Waterline network. They also occasionally carry dangerous chemicals, so the night schedule also serves to minimize passenger exposure, especially in the unlikely event of an accident. Routes. Now we will cover Waterline's 11 routes, starting with R010. R010, also known as Waterline South, takes passengers from Newry to Greenslade, stopping at all stops. It's the oldest and most frequent line on the network, with a train on average every 5 minutes. This line features varying scenery, although aside from Benton, all of the stations are regular commuter stops, with nothing particularly standing out visually, although Eden Quay and its surroundings do look absolutely amazing, especially the coloured skyscrapers between Eden Quay and Faraday Road. R011 is pretty much the same thing, but to Connolly. There's an interesting railway alignment here right next to the highway passing Cambridge Street Parkway and Wonder Mall. However, the highway confusingly ends before Ashton Park, just shy of the Stepford line's level crossing. The line then continues on to Connolly, where it terminates right by the sea. There's also a siding here featuring a Class 730, which hasn't moved since the last World War. R012 is the same line, with an extension to Newry Harbour. This line doesn't operate as frequently as R011, however it does take it to Newry Harbour, which is a beautiful station. Here you can change to the occasional Stepford Express service, but also to various harbour services, from ferries to cruise ships. The ship currently stationed here is a cruise ship from Visit Bowden, however it won't be departing anytime soon, as it's been a victim of registration issues since 2022. R013 is the fastest way to get from Benton to Greenslade, skipping Morganstown docks. While the timetable in total is the same as R010, aka 5 minutes, it gets less delay upon arrival into Greenslade due to the aforementioned skip. It is, however, a lot less frequent than R010, and you won't see it that often. R014 is the primary way to get to Stepford. It's a relatively frequent line that operates as a regular commuter service down to Airport West, where it then becomes a semi-fast service, skipping James Street and Rosedale Village. There isn't much to say about this line, so we'll move on to R015, also known as the Morganstown Shuttle. This line has decreased in significance recently with the opening of R137 on the Metro network. However, it's still a significant part of commuting around the River Ben. As R137 doesn't have frequent services, there is usually one train on this line constantly going back and forth between Benton and Morganstown. R016 is the only stopper service on the Stepford line. It goes every 25 minutes, which is really sparse, however it mostly gets covered by R014 and 18. This line's only real purpose is stopping at Rosedale Village. R017 is the fastest link from Benton to Terminal 2, as it still edges out Stepford Connect services to this day. This line typically runs every 25 minutes as well, connecting the entire Waterline network to the airport. If passengers don't fancy the wait, they can take the much more frequent R014 and 18 to Airport West, and then change for the terminal shuttle to access any of the terminals for completely free. If they want to pay a little bit, they can also access Stepford Connect and other airlink services. R018 runs from Newry Harbour to Farley. This line runs approximately every 5 to 6 minutes, ensuring relatively fast frequencies at James Street. The trains make a really fast turnaround at Farley, only stopping for about a minute to let R014 trains pass. If it weren't for this line, James Street would be getting a service every 25 minutes, which is insane. R019 runs from Benton to Connolly. It's not that frequent, with a train every 20 minutes or so for extra capacity. Passengers typically take R011 and R012, as these lines run every few minutes. And finally, the last line, R120. This line runs every 15 minutes, and it's one of the two lines that go to Morganstown along with R015. The only problem with this line is that every other departure is a pacer. This is ridiculous. Areas of improvement. So, where can Waterline improve as an operator? First off, ditch the pacers. Some people may be nostalgic for these wheelie bins on bogies, but they're awful trains. Awful seats, awful speed, awful noise. They're 20 years overdue for being turned into scrap metal. There would also be some route changes. Increase the service frequency on R016. Does it really matter that Rosedale Village is a small station? It's only one stop for crying out loud. Lower the frequency on R014 and completely ditch R018. We don't need this much frequency to the harbour. Also, it would add more electric trains to James Street, which would help with the pollution inside of the tunnels. Refurbish the turbo stars as well, and that's basically it. Overall, Waterline is a perfectly fine commuter operator for the Benton area, with only a few minor issues. It's relatively frequent, it's easy to change to other services, it's a great operator. If you live in Benton, you likely can't live without using it. The majority of the stations are either beautiful, like Benton and Stepford, or extremely efficient, like Cambridge Street Parkway and Eden Quay. I have nothing else to say. Overall, I'll give this operator a 9.5 out of 10. Thank you all so much for watching this video. The start of a new series is always exciting. Big thanks to my channel members whose names you can see on screen. You can expect even more videos heading into 2026, and maybe even a few surprises. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you next weekend.